far as I'm concerned, summer food doesn't have to be eaten in summer, but at whatever time of year, it needs to summon up that brightness, intensity and openness, and everything can be tweaked to suit the mood of the moment. Watermelon mint and feta salad is what I make to create that instant hit of summer, and a wintry borscht can be chilled down and spiced up to make a gloriously cool Barbara Cartland pink soup. Don't worry, Matron is going to be very gentle with you. Now, I need these gloves actually to peel the beetroots for my spice pink soup, because otherwise I will have more than a touch of the Lady Macbeths about me. I've roasted them for a couple of hours in the foil, which really brings out their flavour, but they still leak their wonderful sweet blood, which is why I am protected. Beetroot's one of those odd things, a real kind of love or loathe sort of food, but I think most people just hate beetroot because of the memory of school beetroot, which is sort of flabby and disgusting. But the funny thing about roasting beetroot is that you don't have any of that flabby texture. It really brings out that wonderful sweet earthiness of the vegetable, and somehow the texture stays strong and pure. Ah, look how they glow at these wonderful sort of ruby lights. I know these are very darkly glowering now, but when you blitz them with some sour cream just before you eat the soup, it does go shockingly pink. Right, now I think I might have to remove one of these rather delicious gloves for this part of the operation. And go straight into the blender. Bit of lime juice. The beetroot is very sweet, I mean fabulously sweet, but I think you need to offset everything when you cook, and against the sweetness of the beetroot I want that intense sourness of lime juice. This is a spiced pink soup, and the spices I want here are those very strong, almost pungent, earthy ones. So I've got ground cumin, really pungent, and ground coriander. Nothing mimsy here. Right, I need some stock. The kettle should be hot. 1.5 litres for about that amount of the beetroot. And some stock concentrate. Add a teeny bit now just to help this off. I don't want to add it all at once or I will be pink from head to toe. Here goes. Oh. I'm going to pour the stock through the funnel. Wonderful. I'm just going to pour it straight back in at this stage because I like to puree it again before eating it. And I know it looks really alarmingly magenta now, but once it's cooled and has been stirred through with some sour cream, it just goes the purest puce. One last thing before it gets cold. Let's get a couple of spring onions, just slice them lengthways, stick them in the soup to infuse it with their flavour, and then when this is cold, just fish out the spring onions and add the further kind of harmonious souring with some sour cream to counter all that spice sweetness. And blitz this soup one final time again before serving so that it's super smooth and silky. As improbable as it sounds, this combination of watermelon and feta does work incredibly well, somehow both savoury and refreshing at the same time. Obviously the watermelon and the feta are the chief ingredients, but before you start with them, you need to slice a red onion, cut it into really fine half moons and steep it in the juice of about 2 limes. And you will see, look how incredibly beautiful, I mean luminescently pink, really lit up. And it's not just the beauty, although that's no small consideration, but also it takes out all that kind of acrid burn you can get from raw onion, so you can eat this and your friends will like you afterwards. Okay, a little light chopping. It's nice to chop things fairly roughly for this salad. This piece weighs about 1.5 kilos. I'm just going to cut it away from its skin. And I want quite large chunks, but small enough to get into your mouth at one time, but then my mouth can't accommodate. Roughly triangular shapes if you can, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then you really can just mix everything up as it comes into the bowl you're going to eat the salad out of. Ah, so beautiful. And against this lovely juicy pink graininess, some incredibly salty, dense feta. I mean, the contrast works on every level. I can't take that much credit for this combination because it really is the Middle Eastern variant of a Greek salad. And it makes sense because when it's very hot, what you need is food that is sweet, salty, and full of liquid. We'll just tumble this on top. Ah, fabulous. And then some black olives, pitted, about 100 grams here. Beautiful. And now my glowingly puce red onions. I know it looks like there is much too much onion there, but you must remember that the lime juice makes the onion so mild and sweet. It doesn't taste like that. And you need the juice. Can you see how pink it's gone because of the onions? And you do need the lime juice. It's part of the dressing for the salad. Bit of oil. Not much. This is a lovely, lovely, light, refreshing salad. And all that remains, some really roughly torn off parsley. I like this to be eaten really like a salad leaf, not as a sort of herby garnish. And some roughly chopped mint. And just toss all this together and it is just easier to use your hands. Feels rather lovely. Well, I'm done and just desperate to dive in. Please try this, it's so incredible. If you're as much of a rhubarb addict as I am, you will be weepingly grateful for this fool. It's an old-fashioned English summer in pudding form, vanilla-scented, rhubarb rippled and totally dreamy. You need 500 mils of cream whipped. You want it lusciously thick but not stiff. And this here started life off as 1 kilo of rhubarb, which I cut into logs and just put in a baking tray with 300 grams of vanilla sugar, covered with foil and then roasted for about an hour. And I just strained it and forked it into a puree. Just gently fold in. You don't need to do much of this because the whole point is to have the smoothness of the cream rippled with the tart fruit. You don't want this one pink homogeneous mousse. And this is the thing which I think makes all the difference. The juices that the rhubarb made when it roasted, I reduced. Just going to pour some of this cooled pink goo in. Tastes like boiled sweets. And again, fold gently. Bit more rippling. And then a little gentle filling of glasses. I love how it's feathered with the pink. We're back in the Eastern Mediterranean, give or take, for the bulgur-wheat salad with lamb. And this is the bulgur-wheat. It's cracked wheat, wonderful golden sort of crunchy shards of it. Has real bite, a sort of nutty flavour. And like all starches, it's very good at carrying other flavours, really strong flavours. And even better, you don't have to cook it, it just soaks. You should look at the packet instructions of the bulgur-wheat you buy because it can be fine or it can be coarse. But this one needs about 15 minutes in hot water, just covered with a plate. And by the time the bulgur-wheat has absorbed the water, the lamb should be absolutely ready and probably have stood for a few minutes too, because these are tender little loins. Just turn them over. Now I am going to get started on everything that's going to go in with the bulgur-wheat. And I know this is an absurdly large bowl, but when you want to toss everything together, you need a bit of space to move around in. Now first, I have to have a bit of chilli because I want the heat against the sweetness of the meat. And on top of the heat of the chilli, lots of onion, but I want that lighter, fresher bird of spring onions. And a huge amount of herbs, mint and coriander, because the salad really can take that depth of pungency. Because you need contrast of texture as well as contrast of flavour, some courgette just to be cut up raw for chunky crunch. So I've done chopping and the lamb, lovely and bouncy still, is ready. And this can stand just for a few minutes while the salad gets its final bit of tweaking. Now, I think the bulgur-wheat looks like it's absorbed all the water, but just because I don't want this mushy, I'm going to do a little high-tech water removal. Strain the bulgur-wheat just to let any excess liquid drip out. Then toss the bulgur-wheat in. A few more herbs. And now, I love this, it's mixed together so that the golden grains become flecked with aromatic green. And the smell of the mint and coriander as you toss the wheat against it is just amazing. I want a really feisty dressing to go with this strongly flavoured salad, so I'm going to use 4 limes, and that's just for starters. Taste and it may need more. sounds like a lot and as if the dressing is going to be really too acid and sharp, but in fact the bulgur wheat is very sweet. Well, all carbohydrate is sweet, and so what we're getting is balance, not invasive sourness. Now a small amount of olive oil and a good crunchy scattering of salt. We use forks now just so it doesn't all start clagging up. And you know, it's because of these strong flavours in the salad that the lamb is as it is. No marinade, nothing. Just sweet and meaty and pink. The last bit, but the hardest if you're clumsy, assembly stage. You can have the salad on one plate and just carve the lamb and slice it on another one, but I love them together. The green flecked grain and the pink slices. I want to be eating this at some sun-dappled portside restaurant in the Levant. Somehow it's impossible to be English without being afflicted by the most terrible strawberry nostalgia. We all cling on to this belief that there was a time when life was good and strawberries really tasted of strawberries, sweet and red and juicy, and holding the whole of summer in their buried centre. Yeah, but we all know it's not always like that. I mean, sure, when fruit's as luscious as this, you want to eat them as they are, just untouched. But for the rest of the time, they need a bit of help. I love to use a reader's tip that I picked up from a newspaper to make strawberries fragrant with rosewater. Hull and halve a couple of punnets of strawberries and sprinkle over a spoonful each of caster sugar and rosewater. Cover with cling film and leave to steep for an hour or so at room temperature before eating as they are or over ice cream. Wimbledon meets the Arabian Nights. Heavenly. And I adore this classic Italian way of bringing out the natural sweetness of strawberries. Chop them roughly, sprinkle with sugar and macerate in a few drops of best quality balsamic vinegar. Once flavoursomely soused, spoon them on top of cream-dolloped good shop-bought meringues. One messy bite and you're lost. For me, strawberries are the taste of lyrical, wide-skied summer, and this drink is the essence of that. Blend strawberries with sugar to taste to a puree and top up with a bottle of Prosecco or other fizzy white wine. For me, a strawberry fragonard is the spirit of summer. There is just something about homemade strawberry ice cream. It's the taste of blue skies and of sun on your shoulders. The childhood we all wish we had. I've got 500 grams of strawberries here, just roughly chopped with a couple of spoonfuls of sugar sprinkled over. And I want to blitz these now. So not completely liquid, but nubbly and red and mushed up. I'm just going to leave these here to let their strawberryness intensify while I get on with the ice cream base. In that pan, I've got half a litre each of milk and cream, warmly infusing with a vanilla pod, which I'm now going to remove. I'm done with it. And in here, I've got 10 egg yolks, which I know sounds like a lot, but I am making a huge batch of ice cream. On top of the egg yolks goes 175 grams of caster sugar. Whisk the sugar into the yolks. Whisk this in. And then back into the pattern. Don't be alarmed of making ice cream at home. It is no big deal. It's just a question of reheating this, gently stirring just for about 5 minutes or so until it thickens slightly. And that's just how I want it now. Can you see? Not that thick, slightly thickened. A beautiful pale primrose. And while this is cooling down, I'm going to entertain myself with a little light clearing up. Perfect, cold, and now, I love this bit. 1 primrose, 1 red, shortly to be 1 united pink. Just fold the strawberries in. And there is one final thing, and it makes such a difference. The juice of half a lemon. I can't tell you what this does. All the flavours spring into action. It makes all the difference in the world, and it means you can make this, as I have, in bleakest February with long-haul imported strawberries, and it tastes of mid-June. Tubs away. So it goes in here and in the deep freeze, and then we are frankly 2 blitzes away from the most deliriously perfect ice cream in the world. For us Northern Europeans, starved of sun for so much of the year, red brings warmth and oomph. It revs us up. I just have to taste the bright acid sweetness of raspberries and I'm there in an August heat wave. And I need the hottest red of all, the blaze of chili. It lights up the kitchen and it brings food, whatever the weather, to incendiary life. Chilies are crucial in spare ribs, I think, because although I love all that familiar resonant stickiness, what I don't want is jamminess, so I need fire and heat, and chilies really provide that, and freshness as well, which is important. Chilies, the ginger and spring onions, and the spare ribs themselves. You can get these, in the supermarket these days, but if not, ask a butcher. Okay, so we're ready for the off. Now first, some rice wine vinegar for sourness, because all barbecue has to have a sour element as well as a sweet. About 4 tablespoons, which is 60 mils. That's about it. Slightly less soy, about 3 tablespoonfuls. Yum. Some toasted sesame oil, not a lot, just enough to give that aromatic nuttiness. And now ordinary oil, ground nut or vegetable, about 2 tablespoonfuls. Okay, the same amount of honey, about 2 tablespoonfuls worth. Runny honey, not that thick, solid stuff. Now, staying with sweetness, I want cinnamon. And I like to crumble it in like this, not use ground cinnamon. In the same note, some star anise, a couple. Throw them in. And now ginger, quite a bit of it. Just tumble in these golden spikes. 4 spring onions, just roughly chopped. Now the chilies, 2 lovely fat red juicy ones. Tumble these in. And in these ribs go. I've got 16 here, but I don't know how many people you're going to be cooking for. Really move everything about so that the marinade thinly coats the ribs all over. I'm going to get the roasting tin out now so I can just leave them in here, marinating while I clear up, and then they can just go in the oven. Right, well these have had as much as I'm going to give them the marinade, so I'm just going to tip them into the tin. Really make sure to squeeze every last bit of marinade and all these lovely fresh chunky bits of taste. Smoosh them about so everything is still covered, and the ribs need to be cooked partly covered and then for a while uncovered. So just stick some foil on them now and get them into a hot oven, number 6, 200. Start the process off. About an hour for this bit. I make my ribs a bit firier than a lot of people would, but then I love hot food. I mean, I think it's compulsive. And in fact, I once did read a paper which explained that there's something in chilies which makes them chemically addictive. And I have to admit, I am a complete heat junkie. The food I like eating most is the food that bites back. I mean, so pitiful, I have to say, is my addiction to chili that just in case I'm out of my home without a source of heat, I carry these little baby bottles of Tabasco in my bag, and then I know I'm going to be okay. I mean, it's that bad. But I have quite an array of chili sauces from around the world, all of which are deeply necessary to me. Peperoncini. This is very old, you can see. These are little dried red chili peppers. I mean, they've lost their redness, but boy, they have not lost their heat. And they can really give depth to the simplest pasta supper. Just fry some slivered garlic and 1 to 2 crumbled chilies and stir through some hot grain spaghetti. Serve with a sprinkling of fresh parsley. Spaghetti aglio olio. Simple, sensational and life-giving. Sambal erlik. I love this. It's very hot chili from Indonesia. Really, this is just salted, pounded chilies, so you get all the texture and all the heat. It's my secret for instantly transforming a comforting roast chicken to a fire-giving, chili-hot dinner. Just smear the skin with sambal erlik and roast in an oven at maximum temperature. Addictive. Sweet chili dipping sauce from China. Now, sweetness and heat go very well together. Okay, this is a strange combination, but I beg you to try it. Ice cream with red-hot chili syrup, made by boiling a cupful each of water and sugar, then pouring it over a finely chopped chili. Take my word for it, it really works. Feel lit up and soothed at the same time. Well, those ribs should have had about an hour. Just unveil them. Now they look a bit pale, and that's because at this stage I'm going to put on some honey and some 5-spice powder and then turn up the heat so that they get sticky and glazed. About 2 generous tablespoonfuls worth of honey. And about 2 teaspoons of 5-spice powder. And then in this really hot oven, which is about gas 8 to 230 centigrade, they will need about 30 minutes more, but you have to watch. Just turn them occasionally so that they get really sticky and sort of thick with glaze. And what I love to do at the end is add a final sprinkle of earthy hot coriander and really deep heat some more fresh red chilies. Perfect. Now you can see these ribs are scorched and glazed. Right, tongue away. Oh, I love all that sort of conker, shiny, resonant stickiness. Just pile them up on top of one another because they go down very quickly. Now a final red and green sprinkling, the coriander and chilli. And this one is mine now. As a food writer, but really as an eater, I am a shameless solicitor for recipes. I want everyone I meet to tell me what they cook and how they cook it. But I think cooking is where social history and gossip meet. And it's about sharing and passing on of habits and practices. One of my favourite recipes was sent to me by a friend who was travelling around Australia, and she emailed me this thing called slut red raspberries in chardonnay jelly. And I knew I wanted to make it because it sounded so terrific. But I thought no recipe could live up to that title. Luckily I was wrong because I think this surpasses it. These raspberries, about 300 grams, have been steeped in a bottle of chardonnay, and you can begin to see why these are called slut red raspberries, because the thing about the wine is that as the berries steep in it, they take on almost like a sort of stained glass quality, lucent. And it's not just that, it's also that their sort of very raspberryness is enhanced as well. I mean, this is so fabulous, and their fruitiness goes into the floral wine, and it just tastes, when you eat it, like, I don't know, essence of summer. Okay, just shove that there. And a vanilla pod goes into this. That old-fashioned nursery scent of vanilla just permeates through the liquid. Just split it lengthways. Stick it into the wine, just turn on the heat, let it come to a boil, and then just leave off the heat for 15 minutes so that all those wonderful fruity, floral and spicy flavours just merge into one another. So while this is going on, I'm going to fill up these little glass bowls with the berries. And you could use one large bowl, it's just you get that perfect soft set quality with the jelly better when you have a small container. Now, I'm going to pour some cold water in here for a purpose, and that purpose is that I want to soften my gelatin in the cold water before dissolving it into the hot wine. I don't know if you've come across this before. This is leaf gelatin, which comes in kind of rigid, see-through, hard strips, a bit like sort of plastic cardboard. I'm only using 5 leaves because I want a lovely soft set so that when you dip your spoon into the jelly, you get that really voluptuous, soft, cool wibble-wobble in the spoon. Well, that just needs a few minutes to soften and gellify in the cold water before being dissolved in this lovely warm wine, which needs to be sweetened. About 250 grams of caster sugar, which dissolves better than granulated. And turn the heat back on gently just to help the sugar dissolve. I'm going to remove the pod, but don't throw it away. Never be wasteful. Just let it dry and just stick it in a bag of caster sugar. And you've got vanilla sugar. Right, so the gelatin is ready to be dissolved in the wine. It's easier to dissolve it first in a smaller amount, so I don't take out a third, thereabouts. I use the term loosely. And now squidge and squelch. Look at this. And just drop it into the jug and whisk to dissolve. That's it. Pour back in here so you've got the whole lot. Now, because there is more than a touch of Norman wisdom about me, I'm going to pour this into a jug first, because I think if I start trying to fill up those little bowls from a pan, it'll go all over the tray. And just pour this wonderful scented floral wine over the berries. Just go into the fridge, I don't know, 5 hours or so to set. I always think it's a good idea though to take them out a good 40 minutes before you want to eat them, because you want this as soft and melting as possible. I mean, these are lovely just as they are, but what I particularly adore is after you've taken that first soft spoonful, just fill out that dip with some double cream and just let it swirl over. I mean, old-fashioned perfection, jellies and cream. In cooking, as in the rest of life, I believe in playing to my strengths, not my weaknesses, and I am unapologetically an enthusiast, not an expert, which is my way of saying, however awful this sounds, that I leave any job that requires patience, dexterity, or even brisk competence to others. I don't wish to state the obvious, and yes, fishmongers do sell fish, but the point for me is that they will do all the fiddly jobs that I can't do. I mean, I'm not just buying their produce, fabulous though it is, I'm buying their expertise because, in cooking you just have to stack the odds in your favour. So if someone else is going to do all the hard work for you, well, frankly, you're just taking the stress out of the kitchen. Look, I do understand that the idea of making a crab sauce for pasta sounds incredibly involved, not to say fancy, but you're just going to have to believe me when I say that it's about as simple as making spaghetti with tomato sauce that you might do every day for the kids for tea. Look, my lovely crab. Now, culinary weapon of choice here. I can lift it down. My pestle and mortar. Well, this takes no time, so I'm going to get the water on now. It should anyway be boiled from the kettle. Huge pan. Always makes it better with pasta to use as much water as you can. Not least because the temperature won't sink as much when you add the pasta. Right, time for a bit of upper body workout, so I'm going to get rid of this. Garlic first. I mean, this pasta sauce needs to be very garlicky. Just peel them. Okay, now a bit of salt, about a tablespoonful. I mean, this sort of amount, small handful. And I'm just going to pulverise the garlic to a wonderfully sort of dense, sticky puree. Right, so I've got the wonderful sort of deep heat of the garlic, and now I want the sort of fiery spikiness of some red chilli in the... I don't know whether this is the pestle or this is the mortar. I'm presuming that this is the mortar and this is the pestle. Don't write in. Okay, in they go, and these wonderful sort of clumps of red are going to be pounded to a sort of coral sunset paste. I must say, I do like any form of kitchen activity which sort of demands work that doesn't need any dexterity, and this about sums it up. Now, get the pasta in. I use linguini, which I suppose in a way is like a cross between spaghetti and tagliatelle. Slightly wider, but also wonderfully dense, which makes it a great vehicle to carry the sauce. Now, the main event. This is about 100 grams of brown crab meat and about twice that, so 200 of white. Okay, just fork through, and now some olive oil, about 125 millilitres. I find that easiest to use an American half cup measure. Right, lemon. a lot of zest as well as juice, just because I want this to be really quite definitely lemony. I mean, not astringent, it's all got to work together. Okay, so that's my zest. Right, now just the juice. Beautiful colours. Let's just fork it through, and that is all there is to it. I'm just going to go and check how the pasta's doing. Looks like it's another couple of minutes or so, which gives me time to do my bits and pieces. I want to chop some herbs. I have to say, you don't need to use this crab as a sauce for pasta. It is really wonderful, just heaped on a plate and eaten with a pile of hot brown toast. But then again, having recently released myself from a low carbohydrate diet, I find I can leave no loaf unturned, and any bread is really wonderful with this. I'm just going to have a quick rhapsodic dip. And that looks absolutely perfect. Just need to turn the heat off and drain and dress. Now, this bit you need to be strong for. Not as much sauce maybe as you think for this amount of pasta, but then I want this to be kind of lightly dressed in it rather than drenched. Oh, that's it. A quick swirl around. So lovely. Right, watercress and parsley. Scarcely wilt in the heat really. So beautiful when it's flecked with the green too. Right. Can't wait. Perfect. Right, I'm going into the garden for a spot of our fresco cooking this afternoon. Please come with me. Okay, ready to barbie. Now, these fish fillets will take hardly any time to cook. I'm going to put some foil on the barbecue because otherwise I find the fish just sticks to the wires and I don't want to mar the beauteousness of my fillets. Slap them down. And as quick as these are, I mean the shredded salad is even quicker. I mean, one, because of course there's no cooking, and two, because I've already chopped everything up. First, carrot, some spring onions, lovely. Hot red chili pepper, although not as hot as it could be because I've taken the seeds out, so you get the heat but intense sweetness. And some green pawpaw, which looks a bit like cucumber but is much crunchier and nuttier. And now some really lovely pink raw peanuts, lovely and sweet, and really earthy, pungent coriander. So these just need to be roughly chopped. Okay, so just gonna add these and then attempt in my rather alarmingly clumsy way to turn over the fish. Be patient with me. It's just very difficult not to tear this lovely skin. Here goes again. You don't need to use red mullet, beautiful though these are, as you can see. Salmon fillets are fabulous too, a lovely coral. But chicken, anything you want, I mean, please. Okay, now We've got all that lovely crunchy sweetness. So we need a bit of sharpness to offset that. Lime, very sour. Just one, but squeeze out well. Some fish sauce. And it's this sharp note which makes the whole thing so refreshing and, if I may say so, very unfishily inviting. A bit of sugar to melt into the sourness of the fish sauce and lime. You need that. Balances everything in life, in food. Stir. Oh, we're done. Now I'm going to fight with my inner clumsy self and outer, I have to say, and get these lovely pink babies off the grill. And just strew with those lovely crunchy shards. Glass of cold beer and this fish.